Alright, hello everyone, it's Happy, and today I want to talk about which tier in World of Tanks Blitz is going to be the best for your experience overall. Now, tier 10, in my opinion, is going to be the best tier in the whole game, simply because of a few factors, which I'm going to be explaining in a second. Now, if you're a new player, I wouldn't necessarily, again, recommend jumping straight away to tier 10, but in my opinion, tier 10 is going to be the most balanced, as well as most skilled tier in general, because players know what they're doing, and therefore your enemies are going to know what they're doing, and so are your teammates. It's going to be a little bit harder to play, but in general, in my opinion, tier 10 is definitely the best tier, because if you look at the tiers below, for example, tier 9 is actually quite close to tier 10, but even then you're most of the time going to be fighting against tier 10s, and it's not fun playing, in the lower part of the team all the time, in my opinion. But then again, if we start at tier 8, you have so many premium tanks at tier 8 that it's pretty much impossible to play as a normal standard tech tree tank. This is very, very hard to do, and you're pretty much going to compete against stronger and stronger premium tanks. Like if you compare the newer premium tanks that came out this year compared to the years before that and the year before that, the premiums are getting stronger and stronger. The tech tree tanks are not getting that many balance changes. And if you look at a standard heavy tank like an IS-3, for example, I mean, they're not that great. If you look at the Tiger 2 and the VK, the Tiger 2 is probably only winning because of the armor. Apart from that, the gun is, not that special, etc., etc. So tier 8 is a milking ground for Wargaming in order to release premium tanks. And that is the brutal truth. They release premium tanks mostly in tier 8 because they farm well, but also because this is a safe tier, far away from tier 10. Well, not far away, but relatively far away, and they don't really meet each other. Therefore, it's safe to make premiums very strong and sort of milk the player base, because tier 8 premiums sell the most, and I'm sure they make the bulk of Wargaming's money. Now, if you go lower than that, you have tier 7, which is pretty much the domain of OP tanks. Like, literally, tier 8 has never seen an OP tank like the Smasher or the Annihilator. Only in tier 7, and Wargaming like to do this in tier 7. They add, like, really strong tanks. And if you compare, a Panther to something like an Annihilator or a Smasher or any other tech tree tier 7, you really are going to wonder, what the hell is happening? You're like, what am I playing? This is crazy. Because this is a matter of fact that tier 7 is pretty much dominated by OP tanks. It's simply the truth, and tier 7 is a milking ground, tier 8 is a milking ground, while tier 7 is for OP tanks. Now, apart from that, what else do you have? You have tier 6. Now, I don't really know anyone who plays tier 5 to 6, because especially in the evening, you really are going to be sitting in front of your screen for like 6 hours waiting for the next game, because no one even, necessarily plays it, It's not as fun to play tier 5 and 6, let's be honest. So, in general, you have tiers 1 to 5, which are basically for noobs to sort of learn and play the game, because I don't know anyone who plays tier 3 or 4 for fun, especially after update 5.5. So in that regard, I mean, it sort of makes sense. And then tier 6 is, again, something for beginners. Tier 7 is when, proper tanks start coming out, and then you get like really OP stuff in the game as well. And tier 8 is a milking ground for Wargaming to produce premium tanks to sell, and tier 9 is the middle ground between tier 8 and 9. So you do face tier 8s, you face tier 10s, but again, tier 10 is going to be optimal because you're always a tier 10. There's no tier 11. And so playing the game is a little bit more fun. The game is way more balanced. Your teammates are actually going to know what they're doing, at least, on paper they should be, because they reach tier 10, unless they bought, a premium or collectible. And even then, tier 10 is also getting a little bit more corrupt these days because of, these new premiums / collectibles, which are becoming very, very strong indeed, better than tech tree tanks. I made a video in this. And this is why, in my opinion, you should stick to tier 10. The other tiers are pretty much filled with OP and premium tanks that dominate the game. And therefore, tier 10 is probably going to be the most fun and, of course, enjoyable, at least in my opinion. It's going to teach you how to play the game much better, of course. And eventually, you're going to have to play tier 10 a lot more often. And what better way to practice than to play tier 10? So tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section below. And with that, happy is out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.